everyone! Today Terence is going to be showing us the process of completing a mobile app security test using viaLab Community Edition. There's going to be a Q&A at the end as usual, so feel free to be sending in some questions using the chat box, or you can send them to us on Twitter at viaForensics or using the hashtag viaTalks. That's viaTalks with an S at the end. So I'm going to hand it over to Terence and he can get started.
All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Terence Fernandes, and yes, I'll just show you today some pretty exciting stuff about application security and how you can run security assessment by yourself using viaLab Community Edition, all of that for free. So let's get started here. All right, so just a little bit about myself. Again, my name is Terence Fernandes. I've been working with viaForensics for a little bit more than 3 years now, and I mainly worked on the viaLab product. I'm what we call a mobile security engineer, but I lead the viaLab team as well. And I worked on the different, different forensic and computer security projects as well. But my main focus has been viaLab. And I really believe that it's a really comprehensive and the most, comprehensive application security suite that is currently on the market. And I'll show you why with the next few slides. Also, I'm originally from France, so please pardon my accent or my spelling mistakes. So hopefully you won't find any, but just pardon my accent. All right, so let's get started and let's talk about the viaLab architecture and really what is needed to run the software and what is viaLab basically. So viaLab is a software that runs on CentOS Linux. For those of you that are not familiar with what CentOS Linux is, it's basically our operating system based on Linux that we customized to add security tools. So we have reverse engineering tools, we have network penetration testing tools, as well as forensic tools, mostly related to mobile application, security. We have that available for free, and I encourage you to look at our website to download CentOS Linux if you're interested in that. But basically, viaLab is a software that runs on this operating system, and you're going to connect your mobile devices to the VM to viaLab so that we can test the applications that are installed on those devices. We also have what we call viaLab agents. So this is basically an application that we developed internally that we install on those devices automatically. And this is so that viaLab can communicate to the phone when we run our different tests. We also create a Wi-Fi network directly from viaLab. And this is so that all of the network traffic that is being sent by your phone and therefore your application is being captured at all times by viaLab. And you'll see that this is really important for us in order to run our different network tests. So this is pretty much the architecture. It's pretty simple again. viaLab running on a CentOS Linux operating system. You connect your mobile devices. You can actually also use emulators on the Android side of things, so you don't even have to have a physical device connected. And you also have the Wi-Fi network brought by viaLab just so that we can capture all of the traffic. So let's talk a little bit about the tests that we run in viaLab, and like I said, this is really a mobile security suite, and it's aiming to help you identify the vulnerabilities in mobile application in a really fast, quick, and easy way. Those are some of the tests that we run. It's not all of the tests. We do much more, but I just want to touch down on those. The first section that I would like to talk about is the forensic analysis. We started as a forensic company, and forensic is important both on the computer side of things, but also on the mobile space. So viaLab is going to help you, look to see if there's sensitive information that was stored by the application locally on the file system. We're going to take a look at snapshots also, for example, which is a concept on iOS, where it takes a picture that shows as a background task on iOS, and sometimes it has sensitive information on it. We look at the logs. So there's a lot of places on the phone itself where the application can store sensitive information, and viaLab takes a look at that. One of the big also part of the security assessment in viaLab is the network analysis. So like I said, viaLab captures the network, and this is one of the tests that we're going to see today. And this is what we call the network capture or PCAP. And we record all of the traffic behind the scene. But we also have tests that are a little bit more advanced and attacks that allows us to see how your application would react in a less secure environment. So for example, the man-in-the-middle attack is an attack that viaLabs automate and present like a non-trusted certificate to your application. And if your application doesn't validate the certificate, then we'll be able to see all of the encrypted traffic, which is obviously a big problem. SSL proxy is another network test that we have integrated in viaLab and automated. In this case, the certificate is trusted, and if your application is not doing certificate pinning, which basically means that they hard code only a very small set of certificate and don't trust any others, then again we'll be able to see and decrypt the traffic sent over the network. The last section that I would like to talk about is the code analysis, and this is also a big part of the security assessment. In this case, will decompile the application. We'll look at permissions. We'll look at different flags to see, for example, if the debug flag is enabled on your Android application. We'll do memory dumps and see if your application is storing any sensitive information in memory. So there's a lot of different tests that make this whole security assessment in the code section a pretty comprehensive. So as you can see, this is a good mix between static analysis and dynamic analysis as well. I forgot to mention in the previous slide, but those tests are on both iOS, the iOS platform, and the Android platform. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the Community Edition. Currently on the market, we have the viaLab product, and we're going to introduce the Community Edition. This is going to be a free product. There's no time limit. You can use it as long as you want, and it's a pretty cool way of like starting your security assessment because you can test as many iOS or Android application as you want. There's no restrictions on the number of assessment that you can run. We allow you inside of viaLab to provision your own devices. Like I said, there's a few dependencies and we install our agent. And so we're going to allow you to do that directly from viaLab, or you can even use the built-in Android emulator. That's actually the fastest way to get started. You would just run the emulator and install some of those applications that you want to test directly on it, and you can start do your security assessment right away. We'll see how we can add our own findings, our notes, and screenshot to the assessment on top of all the automated findings that viaLab is going to populate for you. We'll see that at the end you'll have a PDF report that you can actually customize, reorder the different findings, and share that. And again, it's a pretty easy to get started. You'll just download a VM that has everything installed. You just activate the software with the link that would have been given you during the registration process, and then you can start testing right away. So let's talk a little bit about a security assessment. I try to do in this presentation kind of a flow of something that I would do for my security assessment on pretty much a daily basis. So I just wanted to go through those different steps with you. The first thing, once I chose my application I want to test for, and in this case we're gonna look at a task manager application. It's called any.do. It's a really popular application on both platforms. Basically that stores the different tasks that you want to do during your day, or basically a task list. So I chose this application, and typically we look for things like username, password, or keywords. This is an application that requires a login. So I created a test account, as you guys can see, and I have my username, my password, and I'm going to tell viaLab to search for that throughout the assessment. What's interesting also is that I can also add patterns. This is what we call regular expressions, and instead of saying, okay, I just want to look for this specific password testing via, I'm going to tell viaLab to look for any patterns that match a regular credit card number, for example. So it's not a specific value, but a value that would match pattern. And you can imagine that it could be really useful for banking application in this example, but also for healthcare application. You can have the same thing for social security numbers, or you can even build your own regular expression as well. Um, Also, no, another interesting fact about this is that we don't just search for the plain text values. Although you'll see that application sometimes send the information in clear text and plain text, we also hash and encode those values behind the scene for you, so that we search for that as well. And we'll see that in this assessment, my username was, for example, found in base 64. So you don't have to worry about that. viaLab does that for you, and actually those searches throughout the assessment can also be run in the background. So this is really easy for the analyst. It's kind of like a one-stop thing where you provide us with the information that you want to search for, and then we'll just do the rest of the job for you. There's also what we call compliance tags in there. If you have an application that needs to be compliant with one of those standards, you can check those little check boxes, and we'll tell you in the report if we find some information that would make your application not compliant. So that can be, again, something that could be useful for specific industries, like the banking or the healthcare industries. Um, so, like I mentioned, viaLab Community Edition automatically searches for the sensitive information that you provided us, and we do that in several places. And I'm going to go through all the different places that we search that information in. But it's automatically going to populate the results, and you can see that this is how it shows in the tree view on the left of the interface. Basically, those findings are populated as soon as viaLab found something. In this case, the viaLab found my keyword, my username, and my password, and I have a finding that's a search result that's going to tell me exactly where it is. At any time during the assessment, the analyst, who is always in control during the assessment, can modify those findings and their risk rating. So, for example, maybe my username is not a low finding, but I want to change that to a medium finding. I can just click on it, change the rating, and save the findings so that it shows exactly the way that I want in the final report. So again, the analyst is really in control, and the automated findings are being populated on the tree view, just like it shows here on the right. So I mentioned that we look in different places, and one of the most interesting place that we look for that information is the network traffic. So basically in this test, what I did is what we call a data population. I just went into my phone. I ran the test. I went into my phone. Again, that is connected to the Wi-Fi network um, brought up by viaLab, so that viaLab can record all of the network traffic behind the scene. And on my phone, I just used the application to log in, just as if a regular user was using it. I added a couple of new tasks. I viewed some of the tasks in there, and then I logged out. Pretty common use case, as if I was a regular user. And this is what you want to do when you test an application. You want to test to see how the application reacts in those cases. viaLab behind the scene is recording all the traffic, and we're going to run some tests on that traffic once you're done. One of the tests that we run is to see if your application is using encrypted traffic, is using SSL to transmit the information. In this case, they're not. So viaLab is automatically going to tell you, hey, your application is not using SSL fully. This is a finding with medium risk, actually, and you should take care of that. Is my sensitive information sent in the clear? As you guys can see in this any.do application, they actually don't use HTTPS, so all of my information is sent over HTTP in the clear. And you can see that my email that I use, as well as my testing password, was found automatically by viaLab during that data population. And I was mentioning to you guys also that viaLab encode and hash those values. So this is an example of where viaLab found my username in the traffic in the base 64 format, and it's going to tell you what format it found it. Also, one of the tests that we do, or one of the results that we populate after the data population, is a traffic output. It's basically a summary of where my data is going. It tells you all the different endpoints, the host name the servers that you contacted, which IPs, which protocols were used, which port were used, what is the size of the frame. So it's a pretty cool traffic summary. It's pretty similar to what you would get in Wireshark. And by the way, we give you the raw capture as well, which is a PCAP file, so that you can open that in Wireshark if you want to analyze the traffic a little bit more, and you can open that directly from the interface. Um, this is a pretty cool stuff. We're pretty interested to know where the data is going. Another product of ours called Via Protect is actually doing that directly on your phone. I encourage you to check that out if you're interested to see where your data is going and where your application are sending their information. So this is one of the places where we look at the network traffic, but we also look at the locally on the file system. This is kind of the forensic tab in the viaLab Community Edition application. And so here we're going to show you exactly what the application is storing locally in the application folder. So you can see on the left that I have a kind of a, the regular structure for an Android application. And there's like a different viewers. I can filter by database, binary files, pictures, or preferences file if I want. Here I clicked on the database, and there's different tables that I can explore. Here I looked at the preferences, and this is a good way to explore what and to see what the application is storing locally. Again, this some some applications store really sensitive information, and viaLab is going to look for it in the application folder. Um, in this case, for example, you can see that some of my keywords were found in this database. And this is because actually this application stores a copy of all those tasks locally on the file system. So I don't know, you can imagine that it can be sensitive or not. It depends on the task, I guess. But if you have a task that is like pick up my daughter and you put some of the location information, you probably don't want that to be sent or to be easily accessible. So again, viaLab is going to search locally on the file system and tell you if it found something. And you can filter, as I mentioned, the different files to see if you just want to look for databases, for example, or preferences file. Those artifacts can be explored. You can just double click on one of them and look at the binary data on the Xcode if you want to go a little bit deeper in your analysis. And what's really also interesting is at any time you can add your own findings. viaLab is really analyst driven. We really want the analyst to be in control and to be able to create their own findings on top of the one that we populate automatically. So we have this editors panel at the bottom of the interface that pretty much allows you to do that. You can create all of your findings, associated risk, and save that in any section of your liking with a small description. You can take a screenshot of your device to back up that finding in the report. You can also write a note. In forensic analysis, we usually have like a little notebook so that we put all of the different findings. You can add a note that's pretty similar to that. You can view all the different search outputs. And again, you can change that at any time, change the different sections and the risk. We really encourage the analysts to dive into the analysis and explore those different artifacts and create their own findings. Um, One of the things that is pretty cool with viaLab too is that it might be repetitive to do this data population step. Okay, go on my phone, log in, put my username and my password, populate those tasks. It's kind of the same process over and over again. So we just thought about like automating this. Like we just why don't we just record a script and just use that script to run all different tests. This is exactly what we did, and this is available in the community edition as well, where you'll just basically go into the automation tab and just record a script. So basically what you'll do is you'll do the data population once, but behind the scene, viaLab is going to record all those events that you're doing on your phone. And then viaLab is just going to use that to run the test automatically for you after that. So kind of look at this as a one stop for your all of your different tests that you can run in viaLab, and just use the same script to run them so that it's not repetitive, and it actually makes the whole assessment way faster. One cool feature that we introduced is the ability to import and export those scripts. So hopefully you're gonna like viaLab Community Edition. You're gonna talk to your friends about it, and you guys can share those scripts. So you don't even have to record it in the first place. Your friend tested the any.do application. You want to validate those findings. Not only you can export and import the project itself themselves, but you can also export those scripts to take a look at the automation that was behind it. So that's a pretty cool feature, and we're really excited about that. At the end, when you're done with the assessment, in this case, we found some of the pretty high risk finding, like the password in plain text. viaLab is going to automatically populate those findings into a report, a PDF report, in this community edition. We have more export feature in the full version, but for the free version, we'll stick to PDF. And you have control over this report. You can choose to include some findings and choose not to include others. You can choose to include the outputs with the search result or not. This is really totally to your liking. You can reorganize the findings. And for each of those findings, the interesting fact is that we're going to tell you how to fix it. because it's pretty important when you test your application, if you're the own developer, or if you're just interested in knowing more about how to fix it. viaLab is going to give you a pretty big recommendation on how to fix it. So for example, if you found the password in the memory dump, we'll tell you, okay, this is how you should clear the memory after your app is closed, and this would fix the problem. Or you should encrypt the data inside of the memory portion of your application. So those are recommendations that are for each finding. We also have a mapping to mobile OS top 10, as well as CWEs. So if you're more interested into the standards and see how your vulnerability stack up against those standards, we have that all for each finding as well. So you can take a look at that report. Um, Also, I guess that kind of like finalize the really quick assessment of a VLAN. But in just 5 minutes, you're able to find vulnerabilities in the network traffic, just like I did. It didn't take me more than 5 minutes to find those, and the data population was actually the first time, the longest step. As soon as I was done with the automation, then it would be really easy to redo those steps. VLab Community Edition is coming really soon. Next week is a release date, and you guys will be informed with the downloading on how to download that. Again, it's free, free, no limit in terms of usage. It's gonna be bring your own device, or use the emulator. Like I said, it's a good way of getting started if you don't want to use your own devices to run viaLab, or if you don't want to buy the Wi-Fi adapter or things like that. We really can't wait to hear from your feedback. It's something that we do for the community. That's why we call it Community Edition. I really want to build a viaLab community around this. I think it can be pretty cool to see what you guys found about HAPS. The company motto is to advance mobile security worldwide, and we're pretty serious about that. And getting you guys involved to do that is actually pretty incredible. So we think that by releasing this software and building a community around it, we'll be able to achieve those goals. Speaking about what people are saying, how people are being used, we found this blog post a few days ago. This is a person that's been using viaLab for a few weeks, and they actually found vulnerabilities on the BlackBerry Messenger application. The BlackBerry Messenger was storing tokens and all the text messages. Actually, I don't know if you can call that text messages for BlackBerry Messenger, but those messages inside of the app were stored locally on the file system. So he used the forensic tab that we just showed you to find this. It's a really cool blog post. I encourage you guys to take a look at it. It's another example of how you can use viaLab and viaLab Community Edition. Actually, everything that he did in this post can be done with the Community Edition to find vulnerabilities. So I really encourage you. This post was not we didn't pay for this person to write it. It was really completely on their own, and we found that publicly as everyone else. So just check it out. It's a pretty cool report. I just maybe open the discussion for question at this point.
So thank you for that presentation. So we want to get started with some question and answers. Put them in the panel on the right, or you can send them to us on Twitter. The first question that we have is, what do I need to install viaLab Community Edition?
All right, that's actually a great question. Like I said, it's pretty simple. To install the Community Edition, we'll provide you with a virtual machine so that everything is installed for you. You're gonna register on the website. Just provide us with an email, and this is so that we can just send you a ticket activation number. As soon as you download the VM, you just activate the software, and you're ready to go. You'll be able, like I said, to provision your own devices, or just use the emulator if you want to start with that, and not install all of the different dependencies and the agent on your own phones. So that's pretty much the only thing that you need. Do I need a rooted phone to use viaLab Community Edition? That's actually also a great question. Yes, you need a jailbroken phone or a rooted Android device to be able to run viaLab Community Edition and the full version as well. This is a question that we have pretty often, and people often wonder about that. There's a few reasons for that. First, our agent is installed, and it's pretty low level application so that we can have access to the low level services of your device so that we can run our tests in a very efficient way and find information that others can't. So we kind of need that access. Second of all, you want to kind of test your application in the most vulnerable environment. Some people are going to tell us, hey, I don't care if it's vulnerable in a jailbroken device or a rooted device. My application was not designed to run on those devices. Well, you never know what's going to happen to the device. You never know how the device is going to be compromised. And it's pretty easy to do those things nowadays, to jailbreak a device or to root it. So you really want to test your application in the most vulnerable way. And this is also one of the reasons why we do this. All right, I'm gonna try to find another question here. What is the difference between the viaLab Community Edition and the paid viaLab? Well, the difference is one obviously is free, the other is not. The main differences are basically in the test that we run. The viaLab Community Edition is limited in terms of like the different tests that you run. The network capture that I showed you is for example included in the free edition, but the man in the middle attack is not included in the free edition. This is something that is for the full version. And I encourage you to take a look at the free version first. See what you guys can find with all of the different tests that are included in there. Like I said, the main differences are the available tests on between the two versions. But if you're interested in the full version, there's a contact form on the website where you guys can just contact the sales team and start a discussion to see if the full version would be more adequate for your needs. The last question I guess I'll take is, are all the different tests that we run available on both platforms? And this is actually, yeah, the question, the answer is yes. All of the tests that we saw today are available on both platforms, on iOS and Android. And this is kind of a general concept throughout the full version as well. Most of the tests, as well as the forensic tab, are available on both platforms. In the code section, I would say there's some differences. Obviously, the platforms are different. So for example, the decompiled code is in a different format, and we have different tests in that code section. But most of the tests are really similar on both platforms. So this is something that we actually care about and try to make the testing on both platforms as similar as possible. I guess I'll also talk a little bit about the next talk. Next week, Katie Sremka is gonna talk about the benefits of jailbreaking iOS devices. She's the author of the iPhone and iOS Forensic Analysis book, which is a great book. You should check it out. It talks about how to run those analysis on iOS devices. She's really knowledgeable about the platform. And it's actually a pretty controversial topic. We discussed a little bit about it in this talk with the question, but I feel like there's two group of people. There's one that doesn't want to jailbreak the device at all costs, and there's other people that feel like there's great freedom in doing that. So check it out. Please register to check out the talk next week. I'm sure it's going to be super interesting. And Katie is really knowledgeable about the platform. So I'm looking forward to listen to this talk as well. You can register on the website at viaforensics.com/viatalks.
I think that's it for questions right now. Thank you so much, Terence. We really enjoyed the talk. You can register, like he said, for Katie's talk at viaforensics.com/viatalks. And then today's video will be posted on our YouTube page if you search for Via Forensics. And if you have any more follow-up questions or anything, feel free to contact us via our website or send in questions to us at Twitter. Our handle is Via Forensics, and you can use the hashtag viaTalks with an S at the end. So thank you so much, and we hope you enjoyed.